Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Habs decisively solve the Washington Capitals finally, and we talk a little bit about some leadership behaviors that the team can learn from their teammates.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host Ian Boisvert. Ian, the Habs finally beat the Washington Capitals, and decisively so.
Yeah, we talked about it in the weekly forecast about how the Caps are sort of a boogeyman for the Canadiens. It's not a traditional one, I don't think. It's a team that they ran into in the playoffs last year, but even before that, they struggled in games against the Capitals. And in this one, I think the Canadiens were buoyed by a couple things. One, they got so many goals that it was going to be tough for the Capitals to overcome that. And two, the Caps played on Friday and then had to travel to Montreal. So I think that helped them as well. But you don't apologize for winning. You don't apologize for, the schedule. The Canadiens have every reason to also hate their own schedule. And I'm happy that they were finally able to overcome this particular team. It was nice to see.
Yes. So we're going to talk about the game itself, and then we're going to have our weekly recap as we always do on our Monday episode. And then finally, we're going to talk about a couple of players and things the Canadiens can learn from them, both about getting the jump from the beginning and also defending a lead, which are two things that we need the Canadiens to get really good at. But I also do want to mention, obviously, this is, we're leading up to the trade deadline. So if you're listening to this episode and a trade happened, there will be a bonus episode discussing it, particularly if it's a major trade. He will just, this episode will just stay as is, and then the bonus episode will have our reactions to that. All right, let's talk about that Caps game. Do you know what I thought was the most important thing about that game?
The 2 points.
That, I mean, but
no, what was it?
They showed up ready.
Yeah.
They showed up ready. Like you said, the team was on a second half of a back-to-back with travel, and the Habs exhibited their killer instinct. From the jump.
About them not showing enough of, right?
Yes.
I think that shows itself in a lot of the passing plays that they try to orchestrate. Like, you just need somebody who's just going to shut up and put it in the net. That's why we kind of love Noah Dobson a lot. I think, they start off with a goal 30 seconds in, Cole Caufield blocking a shot from the point and just taking it in on a breakaway. I thought that Charlie Lindgren was making a lot of really incredible saves in this game, but was also, it just seemed like he was off.
Yeah.
There was a shot that Dobson got off of a set face-off play where it was going into an empty net because I think Lindgren started to fall over. Like, he just couldn't get his skates to go in the right direction. And he just kind of fell and it landed in his glove. Like, it was a very, very funny how that sort of played out.
There were a couple of posts too that were like that.
Yeah, very much so. Again, the Canadiens definitely catch a break there, not having to play Logan Thompson and having to go after Charlie Lindgren as well. But I thought, if you're the Canadiens, I think this is a game that you look at and it just reinforces the message that we've been having on this show. And I know Canadiens fans have been having for a long time. Stop passing up the opportunity to shoot the puck. You guys are all really good shots.
Yeah.
It's wild to win a game where I think they got barely over 20 shots. It's kind of bizarre that you win a game that way.
But you got to go to the net and you got to shoot the puck. And Cole Caufield almost got a hat trick by going to the net and shooting the puck, right? It's unfortunate he didn't, but is he on goal 35 now?
That was 30, I think 34 and 35 in that game, 33 and 34, something like that. Yeah, he's been, I think he's now on pace for about 48 or 49. So he's right in there for 50. Again, when we talked about him being on pace for 50, it was always under the assumption that he would get hot. That's the only way a player like him. Yes, the last one was 35. The only way a player like him at this stage is going to get to 50 is if he just goes on a tear, which is great news for the Canadiens and their desires to potentially win the division or at the very least finish second in the division.
Yeah.
But like people will say, oh, well, he just got really hot. That's what goal scorers do, man. They heat up at the right time. I think he smells it. I think he wants it. He knows it's within grasp. And, it's going to be fun watching him down the stretch, especially with the way Nick Suzuki's playing.
Yes.
And his other line mate, Dach. I want to save Dach for the third segment because I very quietly loved his game, even without the goal he scored.
Mm-hmm.
But Suzuki, a 3-point night.
Yes. Can we just go back to Cole Caufield 1 second? He became a franchise leader in something, which isn't really a big thing, but it's a thing.
Yeah, it was a weird stat.
Yeah, it's a very weird stat. So these 2 goals were his 20th and 21st go-ahead goals of the season. And he has now surpassed Guy Lafleur in that front. So
yeah, I love a weird stat as much as the next guy, but apparently not as much as Sportsnet and John Bartlett, who, when that second goal went in, and he's passed Guy Lafleur. Like, I was like, guys, it's a stat that nobody cared about until 20 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's watching this for that.
Yes.
I thought that was really silly.
It was funny, though. It's funny.
Definitely funny.
It's funny.
But also, woof. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not even game winners. It's a go-ahead goal, which is a lot of what Cole Caufield does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Game-winning goals are go-ahead goals in a sense. So who got the game-winning goal in this game, Laura? Do you remember? Third goal of the game for the Canadiens.
Was it Mike Matheson?
It was Mike Matheson, of all people, who just at the end of a power play just got a breakaway basically from the blue line. Really silly. That was really he made no mistake. Shot the puck. If he passed that puck, we'd be having some problems right now. And I think he thought about it for a second, but he didn't.
He shot it. But yes, but back to Nick Suzuki's 3-point night.
Yeah, the dude he was the best version of himself. There are times, again, I'll keep harping on this, where I'm looking at Nick Suzuki and he has the chance to hammer the puck and he doesn't. I think he had like 2 breakaways in this game, didn't score on either of them. So Nick Suzuki, like that's not how he scores a lot of his goals. Yeah. I think he was shocked to find himself on both those breakaways, to be honest. But he's such a cerebral player. The pass he made to Caufield on what was Caufield's second goal, where he deflects a shot from Jaden Struble. Lindgren makes a save, can't handle the rebound, but Suzuki has the presence of mind to look down at the puck in his skates. And instead of doing what like 90% of this league would do, which is just start hammering at the puck to try to push it into the net, he just slides it across the crease to Cole Caufield, who's wide open. Like that's the sort of thing that separates him from like any other, a lot of number 1 centers in this league that aren't one of the elite talents in this league. Like that pass from Suzuki, he's on a different wavelength than a lot of the players in this league.
I think the way that Nick Suzuki thinks is fairly unique. Yeah. I feel like he's, you say cerebral. I also I think, we talked about it when they came back from the Olympics, like what he learned from Sidney Crosby or what he didn't, et cetera. And he talked about it too. And I think that they've had this thing in common. And I don't know if Nick has modeled himself after Sidney Crosby, but Sidney Crosby is a nerd. If he's not good at something or not good enough at something, he'll go and practice it or go read a book on it. Or, he actually, I have it on very good authority that he was one of the early, not adopters, but he used to look at fancy stats when a lot of players would poo-poo them and still do. Like he had an interest. He's like, what is this all about? How can this make me better? Right. And I think that Nick Suzuki does that too. Like he looks at all aspects of the game and goes, how do I get better at these things? How do I get better and like how to make the right decisions? And so if you model yourself that way and you have that talent to begin with and you have that hockey intelligence to begin with, you're not going to go wrong, right? And that's one of the reasons why Nick Suzuki, I will maintain, is one of the top 13 players in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let's do goaltending before we head to our next segment. Dobes started this game kind of sloppy. Mm-hmm. My kingdom for a goalie who doesn't kick every rebound out into the slot. It just felt like between him and Montembeault over the last 2 games, every time a puck hit them in the pads, it was teed up in the slot for somebody to put in the net. Yeah. I still am not a believer in either of those goalies in that respect. Like I feel like they have a long way to go, but I will say Dobes made some big saves early. He was he was the goalie who was being, had to make the most saves. I think he ended the night 27 for 29. And he battled. That's what he does. And that's why I think he, in my opinion, at this point, is the Canadiens' number one goalie.
Yes.
Because he will battle and he will make those saves. When as Montembeault, like, you need a save late in a game with the goalie pulled, and he's just not giving it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's a lot of talk about like what the Canadiens can do on the trade market with goaltending, and my answer to that is don't do it. Don't do it.
My answer to that is just don't. There's no, like, you have a very good idea of who's going to be the goalie of this team when it's time for this team to be winning championships, and it's not either of those guys.
Yeah.
If one of them turns into that guy, that's awesome. But for right now, like, I don't know why you'd mess around with it.
No. All right. We'll keep following the trade deadline and everything as we go. But we do have to get to our weekly recap as we do every Monday. And that's coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. The trade deadline is here. Join the Everydayer Club for ad-free audio, access to our group chat on Discord, and more. Use code DEADLINE ahead of the trade deadline for 1 month free. Join now at lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes. All right. It is Monday. As we do every Monday, we have our weekly forecast. Montreal Canadiens only played 2 games this week, as did most NHL teams. And they came away with what we asked for in our weekly forecast. We said, please get 3 out of 4 points. And the Montreal Canadiens got 3 out of 4 points.
Yeah. If you have a 750 point percentage the rest of the way, you might win the division.
Yes.
Like,
Brady Tkachuk thinks that's a 666 point
percentage. It's so crazy, man. He eats crayons for the taste. Like, I just don't know what to tell anybody anymore, dude. He just can't handle any brain activity that a third grader would be like, that's easy.
Yeah,
like,
for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, on his podcast, I can't remember what exactly the context was because I wasn't listening to the whole thing. I just saw a clip on Reddit. Somebody was saying 150 out of 200, and he said that's 2/3. And then on top of that, he said that's for all the people who think I can't read. So that is Brady Tkachuk of the week.
They need to run, both the Tkachuks need to run every idea on that podcast behind their PR. Because anyone working for them would be like, hey, maybe let's avoid simple fractions. I don't know if that's for you guys or the people who would listen to that show. Because I think they're all going, man, that's based. I can't believe he got all those fractions right. Like, I can't handle. Anyway, we need to move on. It's the weekly recap. The Canadiens got 3 out of 4 points. Laura, I joked with you off the top of the show that Pokemon's 30 years old. And I bring this up because I play the trading card game, which I know a lot of people go, you mean those things that people like scalp? Like, yeah, I actually play the game. And one of the concepts of any kind of deck building card game is win conditions. You build this deck with a win condition or 2 in mind. And I watched this week for the Canadiens, these 2 games, and I'm kind of at a point where I don't know if their win condition is something I like. Their win condition is not get ahead and hold the lead, because they're not very good at that. They did it against Washington. Their win condition right now is come from behind and win late or in overtime. And I'm hoping that we see a shift to the first win condition that I said, which is kind of what happened against Washington, that they get ahead and that they have enough defense and goaltending to keep them there. And that maybe they don't sit back. They don't shell. They decide we're going to keep pushing the pace and try to beat these guys. Because a lot of times when you've got a team like Washington trying to come back by a couple goals late, they're going to be pushing and they're going to make mistakes where if you can push back, you'll probably have an odd man rush or 2. anyway, all of this is a long-winded way of saying, like, the Canadiens got 3 points in 2 very different ways this week. I would like to start to see them hone in on their win condition, which is, use your offense, get up by a bunch, keep your foot on the pedal the entire way, pot an empty netter or two at the end, and walk off with 2 points. Like, regulation wins are going to be so important for this team because, like, the Buffalo has them beat in tiebreakers. Detroit has them beat in tiebreakers. Like, the Canadiens are going to need to pick up more of those regulation wins to make sure that those tiebreakers are intact.
And the other thing that win condition does is it masks the goaltending.
Yeah, it does. Like, I think if you're up by a bunch, like if Sam lets in a fart from a long way away, like, you're fine. Like, it's I think last year this team was a little too dependent on Sam Montembeault. And the numbers show it, right? Like, he was one of the sharpest goalies in the league and the goals saved above expected. Like, that was his thing. He was quietly one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League last year. And this year he's definitely taken a step back. Although I think since like January, he's actually been kind of good. I think his goals saved above expected is positive, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to believe because every time he lets in a bad goal, we think about that bad goal instead of like the other saves he made.
Right. Because it is like, when with a goaltender, with your starting goaltender, it is always the bad ones that get let in that you go, well, that you spotted them one there. Although I do want to point out that, like, for the Canadiens, like, the goaltending, while it's been bad, hasn't really like bothered them. Since the start of 2026, they are 6th in the National Hockey League. They have 27 points. The only teams who are better are the Utah Mammoth, the Buffalo Sabres, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Carolina Hurricanes.
All
so
the
frustrating. Utah being there is astonishing. Like, or Pittsburgh. I mean, and we'll see how long Pittsburgh can hang there without Sid. But like I think, yes, the goaltending is a problem. I think Dobes should get the lion's share of starts the rest of the way. I think he's earned them.
Agreed.
Because regardless of how he plays, he battles and the points are there. He's picking up the points for this team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's earned that, especially, looking at these two starts in isolation from one another. Like, it's Dobie. Like, it's to me, it's his net.
You can see it from the way that, like, one goes deep into his net and the other one no longer does that, right? Like, Jakub Dobes was doing that for a while and his record wasn't great at that time, and he's not doing that anymore. And I think at the end of the day, like, when we look at Jakub Dobes, the problem that we have is it doesn't look like we think it should look like, right? He's not a graceful goalie, but as you said, he battles. He finds a way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, against Washington, there was one guy that scored against Jakub Dobes. It's also the one guy who has more goals than anyone else in the history of the sport. Like, I've said this about when they've played like the Habs, right? If you get beat by McKinnon and McCarr, you tip your cap and you move on. Yeah. What's been so frustrating about playing the Caps is you get beat by Ethan freaking Frank. Like, that shouldn't happen. Like, if they lost that game because Ovechkin scored 4 times, you go, it's the greatest goal scorer in history. What do you do? Like, that's fine. It was when they were getting beat by the Beauvilliers and the Franks of the world. It's like, come on, you have to beat those guys. If Ovi has a quiet night and you lose, you can't handle that. If Ovi has a loud night and you win, you go, hey, that was actually a really good game. Yeah, like I like to say, you can't allow goals by who's that or by who cares. Yeah, exactly. And so often against this Caps team, like they for a while they've had like a murderer's row of guys. Did you notice Pierre-Luc Dubois in that game? He had 2 goals against Vegas. He was nothing against Montreal. Like, this is what I mean. You can't get beat by the guys lower in that lineup who you go, who is that? Like, most of Ethan Frank's goals in the National Hockey League are against the Canadiens. It cannot happen. Against Montreal. All right. Anything more to say about that week? I will say one thing. I think against the Islanders, they could have won that game. They were sleepy, but I'm not disappointed because the Islanders are kind of like, they play each other really well. These two teams, the last couple of years, especially now. That's a tight matchup between those two. For a while, I joked that the Canadiens' best path through the playoffs might be to go through the Metro to finish as wild card 1 and play Carolina in the first round, take your chances, and then try to take on whoever, Pittsburgh or the Islanders or whatever. I don't know that I want to see an Islanders Canadiens playoff series. That might be a little too close.
No. We need the Penguins and the Islanders to play each other.
Well, they're going to play each other in the first round, but who wins that? Like that
doesn't matter because they kill each other.
That's fair. That's entirely fair. Yeah, no, it's look, I mean, there's a couple of really strong performers in this week. Cole Caufield, 3 goals in 2 games. Fantastic. I still feel like he hates that he was left off that Team USA team, despite the fact that he won't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Lane Hudson surprisingly quiet.
Yes.
In these 2 games, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah. I think part of it is that he didn't play for like 3 weeks, and that kind of
I thought he was good. He just didn't pick up the points I expected, which is whatever. Like, it's not, points are not everything.
He thrives on like just constantly like a mill, you know, like
yeah. I think he's due for a big week though. I do think going out west and playing those teams, he's due for a big week.
That'll be in our weekly forecast tomorrow. In the meantime, there's a couple of players that really stood out in the way that they approached these games and the way they approached their assignments in these 2 games. So we want to talk about that and what the Canadiens can take away from their teammates. That's coming up in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. And it's not just the NBA. Here on Locked On Canadiens, we use Game Time for all the games we go to, whether it's separately or together. We've got another big one coming up. We'll be going to a game together, and we use Game Time. Why? Because we were able to pull up the Game Time app, we picked the game we wanted, and we had tickets locked within minutes. And we love seeing the all-in price up front because we get no surprise fees at checkout. We also are able to see the views from the seats before we buy, so it makes the decision of where we're going to sit easier. And the zone deals are always great because you can choose a section. Game Time will pick the seats for you, and you save. There's always great last-minute options too, with NBA tickets or NHL tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets, NHL tickets, anything tickets, concerts, shows, any tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. All right. So we did our weekly forecast, but we did want to shout out a couple of players, particularly for the way that they approach these 2 games. And I think one name is a staple in these kinds of conversations, and one name is has been a bit of a question mark. But I have to say, overall, since his return from injury, Kirby Dach's overall body of work has impressed me.
Yeah, I find so they Marty takes apart the top line. He moves Uri Slafkovsky to the second line. They have instant results. They look great. I found that the last 2 games, they've kind of looked out of place. Slafkovsky's trying to do his best Slafkovsky on Slovakia impression and just dragging that line along.
He doesn't need to.
But I do think Kapanen has been slow to get back to the game. I think Demidov has been fine, but you kind of want more from him. But that left a hole on the top line for another guy who can get below the blue line or get below the goal line and cause havoc and steal pucks and get things moving for the Canadiens. The last few games, Kirby Dach has been that guy. He also scored. He scored a true goal scorer's goal. They're on a 2-on-1 and Suzuki drops the puck back to him. He just wires one into the back of the net. Really loved that.
I love Suzuki so much. Sorry.
Yeah, and we're talking about a different guy, and we're like, "Did you see the play Suzuki made?" Like, it's very much like it's really great to finally have a player like this who just touches every part of what they do. But I find that Kirby Dach being able to simplify his role and just use his 6'4" frame down low and knock guys over and take the puck back. I mean, there was one play late in the second, he almost set Cole Caufield up for his hat trick goal. Towards the end of the first, he gets in on the forecheck, he uses his shoulder, he knocks the guy over, he gets the puck, and he finds Caufield standing in front of the net. Like, that is a very repeatable thing. I think we talked about it with the Buffalo game before the break, that Dach was doing this sort of thing, and it's so enticing and exciting because of how repeatable it is, right? Like, he's gonna be able to get in on the forecheck and knock a guy and maybe not knock a guy over, but create problems, steal the puck, have Suzuki show up as F2, have Caufield sitting where nobody remembers he is. Like that is a I talked about win conditions. That's a win condition for that line. Like a good shift for them looks like that. Even though they didn't score on that play, they did score. I mean, I think all 3 of their goals were at even strength. I mean, there was Suzuki's empty net goal, which was really funny. He just kind of stole the puck from Ovechkin and threw a no-look backhander into an empty net. Kind of crazy. But Dach, for me, he doesn't have to be a 60, 70 point scorer to be effective in that role. He's got to be Kirby Dach. And that might end up making him a very potent offensive player. But for right now, just use your body. Be a jerk. He's at his best when he's a jerk. And that was peak jerk Kirby Dach in that game.
I agree. And I think like one of the things that's a hockey cliche is like being tough to play against. Yeah. But you can be tough to play against and not really contribute all that much. But he does both, right? Like he's tough to play against, but he's also contributing offense. He's also like he's making a lot of right decisions. And I feel like that's kind of who they traded for when they got him, right? Like the idea was that they were trading for a center, but I think like there was something about that specific player that was appealing.
Yeah.
And it's the profile, right? Yeah, it's the profile. And so if he's never a center, it doesn't mean he can't be a play driver, which is what, Jeff Gorton was alluding to at the end of last season, saying it's up to Kirby Dach where he plays.
Yeah, exactly. And there were so many other instances where he's not even on a forecheck, but he has the puck down low.
Yeah,
he gets behind the goal line and he turns into a different guy.
Yeah,
like there's one play that I've been replaying in my head since I saw it on Saturday night. He has the puck down low. He's staring at a defender who's rushing at him behind the net. And he kind of just uses his edges to turn and show his back to the defender, not into the board. So he's like inviting a boarding call, but just like, you're not going to take this puck away from me. I'm going to use my reach to hold it away from me. You're not going to get it away from me. And he sort of just spins off of him and goes around the other side of the net. Like he's so good on his edges. He's got such size. Like you see that, like you said, even if he doesn't end up as a center, the player profile is so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Evans,
the hero shift he put together at the end of that hockey game makes me giggle.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the Canadiens and their inability to play in the 6-on-5 sort of situation and hold leads and all that stuff. He blocks not 1, but 2 absolute cannons from Alex Ovechkin. The second one, the building erupted on that block. The building erupts. The guys are standing on the bench banging their sticks. Like it's like, don't get me wrong. It's Ooga Booga caveman brain stuff, but it was awesome. Like it's awesome. Like I think, if you've seen Happy Gilmore and he looks up at the end and there's like the ghost of Chubbs, like it's David Savard is up there just being like, yeah, you did great. And he ends up scoring an empty net goal because of the play that he made. I think guys have to realize that like, you want to win playoff games, you want to hold a lead late in the game. That's the stuff you have to do.
Yeah.
And Jake Evans is kind of the king of doing stuff that maybe other guys don't want to do. I wish that was more what's the word I'm looking for? Like the contagious. Yeah. I wish more guys were like, yeah, I want to throw myself in front of that puck.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that blocks that shot and this building erupts for it. I want to be that dude.
I also wonder if a lot of these guys, maybe they are still willing to put their body on the line, and it's not like a thing where they're like not willing to, but they think that they need to do something a little bit more finessed or refined, and they're overthinking it when sometimes you just got to go back to the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But I loved it. I love to see it. Again, I hope that's something that they're playing in their next video session constantly.
Yeah.
Like the price it takes to win is steep. And I think they learned a lesson against the Islanders in that like maybe they weren't as willing to do those things. The second block from Evans to me is crazy because he's standing like lower in the slot before the puck has even been passed to Ovechkin. If you watch Evans, he's like, oh crap, that guy is wide open, and he makes a beeline for that area. And I feel like he's laying out to block the shot before the pass is even there.
Yeah.
Like he knows that's their play. We talk about win conditions. The Capitals' win condition in that play is get it to 8. And Evans goes, you're not getting it to 8.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, I loved it. I love that the Bell Center appreciated it as much as I did. Like, that's going to make those guys want to do that more. That's how fans influence the game.
Yeah.
Like,
and
some
that's
guy's
why...
going to go, remember how this building blew up for Jake because he laid out to block Ovi twice in the dying seconds of a hockey game? That stuff rules.
How many arenas can say that, right? We don't have palm trees. We have that.
I remember one from a very long time ago now, because the player I'm going to mention is not played in a while. Ryan Callahan did it for the Rangers once. I think it was a playoff game, and I think it was 3 times on one shift he threw himself in front of a puck. I thought that building was going to collapse. Like, MSG went nuts for it. So, like, fans love that stuff, man. I love that stuff. I know it hurts. Like, that's what you got to do to win. Go ask David Savard. Like, that was his job on this team.
That's why you wear padding.
Yeah, exactly. And I think every one of those shots hit him in the shin pads. Like, if you're going to get hit, hopefully somewhere where there's padding.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do we want to do our trivia and get out of here?
Let's do it.
All right. Last Friday's question was, for a brief time during the 1999-2000 season, the Calgary Flames had 3 black players. One of them was Jerome McGinley, the obvious one. One of them was Grant Fuhr, who a lot of people were like, he played for Calgary too. Yes. And who was the third one? Do you remember?
It is Fred Brathwaite.
Yes, correct. So nobody got that. However, we are recording this a little bit early. So Valkyrie, if you email us a little bit later in the day, we'll give you your credit later on another episode. Today's question is pretty simple. In the 2020 World Juniors that took place in Czechia and Canada won, who was the youngest player on Team Canada? I'll say that again. 2020 World Juniors took place in Czechia before everything closed, obviously. And this was the youngest player for Team Canada. Remember, we're in keeping with Black History Month for the next 4 days still, because we missed 4 days in February. So that's it for our mailbag questions. For our episode. Get the mailbag question, the answer to your mailbag question to us anyway. You know how. I want to thank you for tuning in today to Locked On Canadiens. Tomorrow, as always, we will have our weekly forecast, but we're also going to keep an eye on the trade deadline if anything happens. So make sure you're subscribed to and you follow Locked On Canadiens so you get all the latest episodes. You can find us all over social media. We're on TikTok, Blue Sky, and on Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. My co-host is at Maybe It's Ian. I am at The Active Stick. And if you never miss the any episodes, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Canadiens ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com to join the club. You can also use the link in the show notes. And remember, code DEADLINE for 1 month free leading up to the trade deadline. And for those of you who are on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you catch NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. That's where they cover every game that took place the night before. And sometimes you'll see us on there too. We want to thank you all so much for listening to us today. And we will see you all next time.